I'm very excited about today's episode. We're going to talk about the media landscape at the moment and then what's coming next. BuzzFeed News is gone. They won Pulitzer Prizes. Vice News is gone. They had a valuation of over $5 billion just a couple of years ago. Tucker was fired. What is Fox News anymore? So it's worth taking some time to get a little lay of the land here because it's all changed from just a few years ago, and things change fast and are happening faster. I think what's important, what's essential to understand, this isn't just, well, what are we going to watch now? Or who's the new host at 8 o'clock on Fox going to be? Like, that's not it. The changes in the media change us. That's the important part. How the media landscape changes, it changes how we think. And then how we therefore respond to things. This is a big deal. We'll get to that point in a minute. One point on my podcast, Politics by Faith, that we just drive home all the time is that there's nothing new under the sun. A lot of people bemoan the tribalness of the media world, right? How there's the far left MSNBC and then there's the far extreme right Fox News, and what a shame that there's different news outlets with different political slants. But like, it's nothing new. But that's the thing, I was like, oh, that's where anxiety comes from. Oh, this is so new, what do we do? It's unprecedented. No, it's not. This is the way it's always been. The first printing press in America was 1638 in Boston. It was at Harvard, and they used it to print Puritan things, like catechisms and school books and sermons and stuff like that. Late 1600s was the first real newspaper, first commercial printing press, and they printed events of divine providence. Events of divine providence. Things like droughts, storms, shipwrecks, murders, war, things today we call the news. They called it then the events of divine providence. Early 1700s, multiple newspapers started popping up in Boston and across the country. Then leading up to the Revolutionary War, people began to see the usefulness of using the newspaper to spread political ideas, particularly revolution against the British. So then after the war, that's when they became hyper-political and hyper-partisan. This is like late 1700s. The Federalists had their own newspaper, and the Democratic Republicans had their own newspaper, and they were merciless against each other, against the political opponents on each other side. So the Federalist Party had the Gazette of the United States, the Gazette of the United States. And Thomas Jefferson and James Madison said, this is crazy, those guys are crazy, we need our own newspaper to counter these fools. And they created not the Gazette of the United States, they created the National Gazette. And they were both extremely biased. Of course, they would attack each other all the time. Right? So there's nothing new under the sun. Like that was MSNBC and Fox News back then. Same thing, right? Nothing new. Now, back then there was a real, it was the beginning of the country. So they were having a debate about the role of the executive and the legislative branches of government when it comes to foreign policy. And Alexander Hamilton wrote a bunch of articles and letters in the Gazette for his side, the Gazette of the United States. And then Thomas Jefferson, this is a real letter. Thomas Jefferson wrote a letter to James Madison saying, for God's sake, my dear sir, take up your pen, select the most striking heresies, and cut Alexander to pieces in the face of the public. Oh, that's so mean. Can you believe he was so partisan? The partisan press is nothing. Cut him to pieces? The partisan press is nothing new. Why is that nothing? Well, partisan press is nothing new because human nature is nothing new. We are always, have always been, and always will be fiercely tribal. And my tribe watches this news, and that tribe watches that news and reads that newspaper. It's always been that way. Now, one interesting thing that's happening now, and this is part of the breaking up, the splintering, the disintegration, whatever you want to call it. Let's just focus on Fox. I don't even trust my tribe's news outlets anymore. Right? When we talk about trust in the media, I don't even it's oh, well, you have yours and you have, okay, here's ours, Fox News. I don't even trust them. I'm not even close to trust them. Maybe if you wanted to go back and write the history book, you could be oh, the moment they called Arizona, maybe that would be, but I'm sure there's plenty of other moments as well. Certainly the firing of Tucker, but it's these people are betraying me. Even the people in my silo are betraying me. So now what? I just mentioned Tucker. This reassessment is, of course, highlighted or inspired by Tucker getting fired. A couple things interesting about Tucker. First, no one is immune from corporateness, just from corporate. If you work for a corporation, you will always be a number. And they will can you the moment they want to. And that's it. And they'll just like crush you from that point forward. Like Fox is leaking stuff to the press to make Tucker look bad. When Don Lemon got fired, he wrote this Twitter thing. He said, after 17 years of service, this is how I get treated. It's like, yeah, man, get over yourself. You've always been a number. You've never been anything more than that. Even Tucker had your show, your ratings were terrible. Tucker had the #1 show and he can get fired. So we all need to learn that lesson. But on Fox, I don't know the point of Fox News anymore. I don't know what they are. I would imagine most Fox News viewers at this point, it's just a habit. It's just something to have on, and the other options are terrible. I'm not gonna have MSNBC on, so if it's news, like I gotta have something. So it's always just there. And I guess some people will just keep doing that, but I know a lot of people are making new habits. And I think a lot of people should make new habits, because once you do, you'll wonder why you ever made that habit in the first place. Like, why was I watching Fox News all those years? Is America's newsroom really adding value to my life? Did the 5 really make me a better person? Maybe, if it did, that's great, all right? It doesn't though. So let's do better. Let's make new habits, and I'm almost guarantee you'll look back and think, geez, that was a waste of time. There are a lot more options out there now, and that's awesome. So let's reassess our habits and let's curate our inputs wisely. And here's my final point before we get to Steve Krakauer, who's an amazing guest. The media landscape matters. It's not just what do I get to watch and what options do I have, and I like this and a little bit of this. It's not just that. That's interesting enough. But this changes how we think. And if it changes how we think, it changes how we react. And it changes who we vote for, and that changes history. This is a big deal. The fact that something can change how we think, I want to be aware of that. It's the medium changes, and then of course the what goes on in the medium. So even let's just take the medium itself. So before the printing press, people learned orally and spread stories orally. But then we invented the printing press, and then we all would read books, and that changed how we thought. And then the internet came along, and that changed how we thought. And then social media, all these things literally change how we think, how our brain works. And will new media change us again? Neil Postman wrote about this. Read everything from Neil Postman. He was brilliant. He had 2 relevant points for us. The first one is that TV in America, from the very beginning, was pitched to us as a form of entertainment. It was TV is entertainment. That word entertainment, it comes from the French word meaning to hold, meaning to hold your attention. That's what entertainment is. It's something that holds your attention. And that's always been the goal of TV, right? Music, bright colors, always changing images, keep your attention, the whole thing. But because we, from the beginning, viewed TV as something that's entertaining, it's something I go to be entertained, the news became entertainment as well. It was never meant to inform. It was always meant to entertain, to keep your attention, and to do it by any means possible. And nothing has changed in that regard. Great line from Neil Postman on this. He said, the people who have had the most radical effect on American politics are not the Marxist revolutionaries, they're not the student protesters, they're not the political ideologues. The people who have most dramatically changed the political landscape in this country are, in his words, entrepreneurs in dark suits and gray ties who manage the large television industry in America. They did not mean to turn political discourse into a form of entertainment. They did not mean to reduce political campaigning to a 30-second TV commercial. All they were trying to do is to make television into a vast and unsleeping money machine. The fact that they destroyed substantive political discourse in the process does not concern them. They just want to make money. And they used this medium to make money, to entertain, and it created this, and now this is how we do politics. This is how we do political discourse. This is how we now do debates. Everyone looks at the debate, we're like, this is really stupid. Why do we do it this way? And we need to change it, but we don't. We keep our habits. Right? So can you and I, together, place more of an emphasis on information and thinking, questioning, using our brain over just entertainment and tribalism. That's the goal. We got to be intentional with it, though. You got to want to do it. Can we put an emphasis on information and thinking and using our brain and knowing history? Can we value that more than just entertainment? That is the great challenge of our media era, and really it's the challenge for you and me. What kind of person do you want to be? That's the question here. What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of citizen do you want to be? Someone who is blindly led along by the suits, looking to make money off you? Or someone who is actively involved in curating their inputs? Does watching this help me become the person I want to be? Am I someone who is solely interested in the truth? We are people who just want to know the truth, wherever it may take us. Hey, thanks for watching that clip about the media, about it seems like it's all collapsing and what will rise from the ashes. The whole special is available on the First TV's app, which you can download for free, and also our Politics by Faith podcast. Because in this special, we also ask a very interesting question. Should Christians watch the news? Should Christians be engaged in politics? There's so much lying and cheating, and it's just like, it's a mess, right? So should we even engage in such a messy worldly game? I believe the answer is yes. And we explain why in our podcast, Politics by Faith. You can download it everywhere, Politics by